everyone. Today I just wanted to answer a quick character performer Q&A. I compiled a list of some questions that were just things I had been asked and things I wondered before I worked as a character performer. So I wanted to answer those today, and I hope you find it helpful. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them below and I'm happy to answer. So the first question, and I've heard this one a lot, are there fans inside the fur character costumes? And the fur characters, for those who don't know, are the mascot costumes. So like Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, all of the characters that aren't face characters, so you don't see their face. No, there are not fans inside the costumes. You will sweat more than you have ever sweat in your life. I didn't know I could sweat as much as I did. So when you are in costuming, you take the amount of basics, they're called basics, and they're extra clothing for the amount of sets that you're going to do. So say you have 4 20-minute sets, you need to take 4 sets of basics to change into, and then you'll be wearing one too, because you will sweat through those clothes, like drenched, swimming in your own sweat. So in between sets, you change out of the basics you were wearing for that set and into new ones, and then you go back out and do the same thing again. So there are no fans. I'm not sure why. I've even worked with some character companies just for like princess balls and things that aren't for Disney, and their mascot costumes sometimes had fans. So I'm not sure why Disney's doesn't, but it could be like a cleaning issue. It could be that, I don't know if it's harder to hear the guests. I don't know what it is, but they do not have fans on the inside. The next question is, how long are your sets? So typically sets are about 20 to 25 minutes, at least they were for me. So when I went out, you would go out and interact with guests for about 20 minutes, and then you come back in, and they usually have some like people you rotate with. So when you're done, those people switch out, and then it's back and forth, back and forth. So when they come back, you go back out and you do like 4 or 5. You can have any number of sets that day depending on your shift and where you're working and your character. So they're about 20 minutes, because if they're longer than that, like, you already feel like you're gonna die in the heat in those costumes. So 20 minutes is long enough. Believe me, it feels like a lot longer than that. The next question is, what are the hours like for a character performer? The hours are tough, usually. Again, this depends on a lot of things: the character, the location you're working at, all of those. But you can have really, really early mornings, like if you're out for extra magic hours, or you can have really late nights. And you are working, I was working at least like every single day. I would have like maybe a day off in between, but it was all I wanted to do when I had a day off was just like hang out in my apartment in the air conditioning, because it was draining, like exhausting. So give those fur characters credit, and the face characters too, of course. I'm mostly talking about fur characters right now. I have separate videos for face character information, but yes, the hours are long, and when you have been there for a little while, they start doing like a schedule change, and it's all based on seniority. So those who have been there longer get kind of like top pick, and then it just keeps going down, and you have a time that you can pick your schedule for the upcoming months. And that's really nice, because say you don't want to work in one location, but you really like working in another, you can kind of prioritize those if they're available, and then work less in one, or even not at all in one. Or if there's like a character you prefer playing over another one, you can prioritize that. So that's really nice. I just remember the scheduling was really tough on me. I like having a lot of flexibility. So like Disney, that was obviously maybe not the ideal job for someone like me. But I remember my family came to visit, and my now husband at the time came to visit, and I couldn't get any days off, and I was so upset because I just wanted to see them and spend time with them after I hadn't seen them in months. And it's hard. Disney needs you and they need a lot of workers. So I had to be there. So the hours are long and I mean, yeah, that was one of the most difficult parts for me for sure. The next question is, do you play more than one character? So typically, yes, people do play more than one character. When you first go in for your fitting, when you're first hired, they take all sorts of measurements of your body, like your neck, like the circumference of X, Y, and Z, like your legs, everything. They measure like your fingertips. So I was measured actually short for a face character. I measured at 5'3.5", and I believe the princesses start at 5'4". I know like Alice and Tink are a little bit shorter. But so I was measured at 5'3.5", and a lot of my friends that I went to training with, they were taller than me. So they played different characters than I did. They did like Rafiki and Pluto. One of them did Bolt, the dog, Mr. Smee, characters like that. I did mainly the Chipmunks. Those were like my all the time characters that I did. And then I also did like Mr. Penguin. I did Gideon. I did King Louie. I think that's it. But so it really just depends on your height and your body measurements, and that will give you an idea of who you can and can't play. And super weird random fact I learned about myself is that I apparently have a long neck, because when I was in my chipmunk costume, I always had to wear like this brown sleeve, and a lot of times my character attendants would tell me that they could see my neck still, so I had to like have extra coverage and like sometimes keep my head down. Weird, but yeah, something I learned about myself. So it all depends on you and your specific body measurements, which characters you will play. But they try to, I think, have people play a lot of different characters just so you can kind of be versatile and be able to be used for a lot of different people. I think that's pretty convenient. So yeah, it all depends on all of that. And I do want to include that I never really understood before I worked there why they were so strict on the height measurements and things like that. But like I just said, silly little things like your neck being too long can ruin the magic if you're going out to meet a little kid as Chip or Dale and they can see human skin. So that's one of the reasons. And also when I first did my aerial training and I put on the fin, I realized it was a lot longer on me than some of the girls that I was working with who were like 5'7" or taller. So it does make sense. They need people to be around the same height and size so the costumes can fit multiple people and the characters look similar. So yeah, just something I wanted to include because I had always wondered why that mattered so much. Next question is, do all face characters do fur character performing as well? I believe the answer to this is yes. I know that not all fur character performers do face, but I think face character has to do fur always first. I did have some friends of mine who did training, fur character training, like for much shorter times or even much longer times than others. I think mine was pretty average, but I had one of my friends who was training for Anna, and she trained like very quickly. So I think they just needed Anna, like they needed another performer for her really quick. I don't really know. Whereas I also had a friend who was training for Tiana, and she did for such a long time. I felt so bad for her because she was just so ready to get into that Tiana training, and it was just taking forever. So I think it just all depends on like how many performers they need for that character at the time. And I also think it's kind of like a rite of passage if you're doing face that you start off in fur, because it definitely does get you prepared for interacting with guests. Because I know if I was thrown out there as Ariel like right away, I probably wouldn't even know what to do with myself. So it teaches you how to interact with guests and just what to expect as far as like timing and what the guests are going to say to you, things like that. It kind of gives you some insight, because I am sure when I first met my first guest as a fur character, I was probably like a deer in headlights inside that costume. So there's a reason you don't just jump right into face character training. Okay, so that was just 5 questions I thought might be fun to answer and might be helpful if this is a job you are maybe considering doing or just wondering about. These are some things I wondered about at one time too, and I just thought it would be fun to share some of those answers with you. So if you have any other more specific questions that you want me to answer, I'd be happy to make another video. Just let me know, and thank you for watching. I will see you next time.